హలో హాయ్. మనం పుట్టగానే మన ఇంట్లో వాళ్ళు మన కోసం జన్మపత్రిక అంటే జన్మ కుండలి అనేది ఒకటి వేస్తూ ఉంటారు కదా. అయితే మన శరీరంలో ఉన్న జీన్స్కి సంబంధించి కూడా ఒక జీనోమ్ పత్రి అనేది ఒకటి ఉంది. అది ఎంతమందికి తెలుసో నాకు తెలియదు, బట్ దాని గురించే వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడబోతున్నాం. అయితే ఈ జీనోమ్ పత్రి అనే దానికి శ్రీకారం చుట్టి ఇప్పటికి దాదాపు 2 దశాబ్దాలకు పైగా తనకంటూ వైజ్ఞానిక రంగంలో ఒక ప్రత్యేకమైన స్థానాన్ని ఏర్పాటు చేసుకున్న ఈ మ్యాప్ మై జీనోమ్ వ్యవస్థాపకురాలు అనురాధ ఆచార్య is with me on my special series The Chief Story, only on Prema the Journalist. Hi Anu, how are you?
Very nice to.
It's been so
Yes.
many years.
Yes, absolutely.
మనం కలిసి.
Yes.
కానీ
చాలా రోజులైంది.
మీరు చాలా గొప్ప పని చేస్తున్నారు అనురాధ. రియల్లీ ఐ అప్రిషియేట్.
Thank you.
And you know, as first belonging to the same tribe, I feel proud.
Thank you.
యా. సో ఏంటి అనురాధ ఇది, మీరు దీని గురించి తెలుసుకున్నంత కాలం నాకు ఇంకా తెలుసుకోవాలని అనిపిస్తూ ఉంది. ఈ జన్మపత్రిక అని మనం విన్నాం, ఓకే, మనం పుట్టగానే మనకి మన టైము డేటు ప్రకారం మన మొత్తం ఆస్ట్రాలజీ వేస్తుంటారు. జీనోమ్ పత్రి ఏమిటి?
జీనోమ్ పత్రి అంటే మన పేరెంట్స్ నుంచి జీన్స్ వస్తాయి కదా, డిఎన్ఏ వస్తాయి. సో బేసిక్లీ దాంట్లో వీఆర్ లుకింగ్ అట్ సమ్ మార్కర్స్.
ఓకే.
సో వీల్ హ్యావ్ వాట్ వీ కాల్ ఎస్ సింగిల్ న్యూక్లియోటైడ్ పాలిమార్ఫిజమ్స్. అది మార్కర్స్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు లుక్ అట్. సో వెన్ వీ టేక్ యువర్ శాంపుల్, దాంట్లో వీ ఫస్ట్ డూ డిఎన్ఏ ఎక్స్ట్రాక్షన్. వన్స్ యూ గెట్ ద డిఎన్ఏ, దెన్ వీఆర్ రన్నింగ్ ఇట్ ఆన్ అ చిప్. అండ్ దట్ చిప్ వీ హ్యావ్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ మార్కర్స్. ఆ మార్కర్స్ దెన్ అది ATGC 4 letters ఉంటాయి కదా డిఎన్ఏలో. సో దోస్ డిఎన్ఏ లెటర్స్ వీఆర్ గెటింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ ఈచ్ ఆఫ్ దీస్.
Okay.
So we get a lot of data. Then from each of these data, there's some markers that are connected to, let's say, either a trait or it's connected to like a disease or things like that, right? So we basically take that, we analyze all of it, and then we have our own patent unnai to be able to tell you what we assign in terms of the weightage or risk.
Okay.
Right? So you will get a lot of interesting things. It's not just about disease, but it is also about what characteristics, behavioral, food, nutrition, fitness, and also what drugs work for you, right? So it is basically looking at many different things, because you might have seen kontaman same medicine తీసుకుంటే పని చేయట్లే, but for other people it is perfectly fine, right? Adi because of the change in their genetics.
Okay.
That is what is there. So the US FDA and others all, we have given a list of drugs for which it will work for you, not work for you. మా అమ్మకి మెట్ఫార్మిన్ అనే డ్రగ్ ఉంటాయి డయాబెటీస్.
అవును.
అది పని చేయట్లేదు, బట్ యూ కుడ్ సీ దట్ ఆన్ ద రిపోర్ట్, రైట్? సో దట్ ఈస్ ద ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ థింగ్. దిస్ ఈస్ కామన్ డ్రగ్, బట్ యూ కెన్ సీ ఫర్ ఈవెన్ డ్రగ్స్ దట్ ఫర్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఐసీయూలో కొన్నిసార్లు డ్రగ్స్ ఇస్తారు, అండ్ దట్ మైట్ బి ఫేటల్ ఫర్ అ పర్సన్. సో యూ ఆర్ ఏబుల్ టు ప్రివెంట్ దట్, రైట్? సో వన్ ఈస్ దట్ ఏ డ్రగ్ ఎవరికి పని చేస్తుంది, దట్ విల్ షో. సమ్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎఫికసీ, బట్ ఆల్సో టాక్సిసిటీ. ఇట్ మైట్ బి బ్యాడ్ ఫర్ యూ, రైట్? సో దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఈస్ దేర్. Second thing is also understanding, you might have seen some people eat all the carbs they want. Nothing happens to them.
ఆయన లాగా.
And for others,
ఆయన అన్నీ తినేస్తాడు, ఆయన అలాగే ఉంటాడు. నేను కొంచెం తిన్నా కూడా ఇలా ఐ పుట్ ఆన్ వెయిట్. ఐ డోంట్ నో వై.
So some of the answers are found in the genes, right? And the others are in terms of how you behave and so on. So that is another thing, what works well for you. Is it proteins or fats and other things? And it depends on how your body is metabolizing them.
Okay.
Right? So it gives you some answers over there. And then things like, for instance, I have a B12 deficiency, right? Now I don't, but I mean, for a long time I didn't know. Appudu one doctor had told me that he will operate me for carpal tunnel, but actually it was just B12 deficiency, right? So I think what you can get is to understand if you are at risk, then you at least go get tested and find out, right? So it is just things like that. And then of course the more well-known part of it, which is that are you at risk for a particular disease? And we have to tell one thing, that it is not about telling someone you will die of a disease. It is more about saying that if you have
పాసిబిలిటీ ఉంది, స్కోప్ ఉంది.
it is not even, it's more about saying that your genes make you a little bit more vulnerable than somebody else. So if you think about, you want to go to some place, right? Let's say you have to attend a wedding. You're going to some place. You look at Google Maps, and Google Maps says there is a congestion on this road. You will take an alternate route.
అంతే కదా.
Ante. But for our own health, we don't, now you have the ability to see there is a congestion. You want people to take an alternate route, right? It's mostly, that meeku, let's say you have a risk for type 2 diabetes, then you change your behavior to be able to do that. So it is not about telling you are going to have this, but it's about saying that if you don't change your current habits and this thing, the chances of you getting it is higher than someone who might be doing the same things, right? So that's what we are helping people understand.
సో అయితే ఆన్ అ లైటర్ నోట్, జన్మపత్రికకి జీనోమ్ పత్రిక తేడా ఏంటి? ఇప్పుడు జన్మపత్రికలో మనం టైము, డేటు, మనం పుట్టిన ప్లేస్ని బట్టి మన ఆస్ట్రాలజీ ఇలా ఉండబోతుంది, 10 ఏళ్ల తర్వాత ఇలా ఉండబోతుంది, ఒక 7 ఏళ్ళకి ఏదో ఏలినాటి శని, ఇట్లా ఏవో పెడతారు. సో అందులో ఏమన్నా ప్రాబ్లం ఉంటే ఎవరో అస్ట్రాలజర్ సజెస్ట్ చేస్తారు, ఈ దేవుడికి పూజ చేయండి, అక్కడ హోమం చేయండి అని వాట్ ఎవర్. సో జీనోమ్ పత్రిక కూడా అంతే ఉంటుందా? అంటే లిటిల్
పూజతో ఏమి ఉండదు,
పూజ అంటలేదు, అంటే ఇలాంటి చేంజెస్
ఉంటాయి
చేయటానికి స్కోప్ ఉన్నట్టు, ఒకవేళ మీకు ఈ ప్రాబ్లం ఉంటే ఈ చిన్న కరెక్షన్ చేస్తే ఇది సెట్ అయిపోతుంది, అట్లా ఉంటుందా? అంటే అదే ఎనీ రిలేటబుల్ థింగ్స్, దట్స్ వాట్ ఐ యామ్ సేయింగ్.
దేర్ ఆర్ యాక్చువల్లీ మై మామాజీ he's a pandit.
Okay.
Right? So he actually does this for so we had a good conversation.
Okay.
He said you are telling people to exercise, right? You tell them, let's say you exercise 5, I'm telling them walk to the temple and come.
Oh, okay.
So he said it's the same thing, but I'm looking at it from connecting it with something that people are already would probably do it easier, because change of behavior is easy. Right? So I think in some ways, if we can sort of work hand in hand, because ultimately what do you want to do? You want people to change behavior.
Correct.
You want people to eat healthier, you want people to exercise. You want people to understand that sometimes it's better to check or screen for a thing before, because it is treatable. So that's what we are helping people understand, that it is not about whatever rocks your boat, right? Whatever works for you is good. If it is walking to the temple and coming, it's fine. You don't have to run on the treadmill, right? You don't have to swim. You can do that, right? It is up to you to be able to do it. So for me, it doesn't matter whether it is someone looking at it from one way or the other. But I think what is helpful is that here there is more evidence, right? Okay. There is more evidence that this is what is happening to one person or the other. I don't know enough of astrology to make that any claims or assumptions on my part. But one thing is that if there is a way that maybe we can get people who already believe in a pandit, for instance, we can arm them with more such.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So tomorrow,
Great.
a pandit can do
pandits
not
and
just
scientists work together.
Yes, absolutely. Why not? Right? We are right now working with doctors. Right?
Okay.
We work with doctors a lot. We work with hospitals and doctors. I think pandits are people believe in, right? And I think they can help in changing behavior.
Okay. They are like influencers.
Yeah, they are influencers.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, I mean, I have no problem as long as we can help them with.
Right.
It's a tool for them, right? It's the same thing. It's a tool for medical doctors to change their, potentially change treatment options or tell people what to do. It's the same thing. You get a gym instructor who's doing it.
Yeah.
It says, or you get a nutritionist. Ultimately, they are people who are helping you influence and change behavior. So I don't see. Necessarily a conflict between either one. I think there are ways to work together, because that has been that science has been around for many years, but I think this adds to the evidence of what can be done.
సో అసలు మీకు ఈ థాట్ ఎలా వచ్చింది అనురాధ? అంటే ఇలాంటిది ఒకటి పెడితే బాగుంటుంది, లేకపోతే దీని మీద ఒక అవేర్నెస్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే బాగుంటుందని. వెన్ డిడ్ దిస్ సీడ్ యాక్చువల్లీ వాస్ సోన్?
So Mapmygenome, second company.
Yeah, I know.
So first company already genomics lo unna. So we were doing a lot of it. We had labs in US, Netherlands, and in Germany and India. Appudu one of the things was one database unindi. We were selling it to large pharmaceutical companies and all. And this was a very well characterized and was done with the highest medical centers and all of that. But if you look at what was there, there wasn't enough Indian data.
Okay.
So I felt that I think we need to get something that will get to the average person in India, because we are 1/6 of the world's population. And if you are moving towards the direction where you have personalized medicine, then that is an important part of what needs to be done. So, I mean, I was aware of what was happening in terms of changes in personalized medicine, and that was one of it. The second thing, which is that in India, we were used to going to a hospital when there was a problem.
Correct.
Right? And then when someone's in a hospital, people spend and, you know, everything that they have, right, to save someone. But I think that the same investment, if you did early on, if you did that while you are, still young and healthy, you make those changes, you create those, that would have a much better effect on your health than waiting and at the time when you really can't do much about it, right? You can't even blame a doctor if you're going to them at let's say the last stages of cancer, for instance, right? You can't go and tell them that, I'm already diabetic, it is already spread everywhere, now you fix me with drugs. I think even a doctor can't do it. So I think that's the thing where if people are aware that mundu cheste, mundu you making those changes in your lifestyle, you're making those changes in making sure you understand, doing a health check on a regular basis, I think then it becomes, it helps you to understand and make those and be healthier.
బట్ అను మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు అప్పుడు నిజంగా జనాల్లో అవేర్నెస్ లేదు. యాక్చువల్గా స్పీకింగ్ ఇప్పుడు కూడా చాలా మందికి ఇంకా అసలు జీన్స్ ఏంటి, జీన్స్లో ఇలాంటివి ఉంటాయా, దీనికి ఇలాంటి పరీక్షలు చేస్తారా, ఈ పరీక్షలు చేయటం వల్ల ఇలా తెలుస్తుందా అని ఐ థింక్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద పీపుల్ డోంట్ నో. అండ్ ఇంకొకటి ఏంటి, మనది ఇంకా డెవలపింగ్ కంట్రీ, ఇంకా 70-80% జనాలు మన యాటిట్యూడ్స్ ఎట్లుంటాయి అంటే, మనం ముందే ఎందుకు తెలుసుకోవడం, దాని మీద ఎందుకు ఖర్చు పెట్టడం, ఇప్పుడు తెలుసుకొని ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తాం, తెలుసుకొని భయపడటం తప్ప అని ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద మిడిల్ క్లాస్ మెంటాలిటీ ఉంటుంది చాలామందికి, ఇప్పుడు డబ్బులు ఇంత పెట్టాలా. సో ఈ థాట్ ప్రాసెస్ని ఎలా బ్రేక్ చేయగలుగుతారు మీరు? అంటే అసలు మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు మీకు ఈ లూప్ హోల్స్ కనిపించలేదా? Were you not apprehensive?
No, we were aware that is the mentality. I think.
Right.
But I think that is changing, right? And I feel the middle class is actually more ready to spend on health and education than anyone else.
Okay.
Right? Because there's an aspirational aspect of, where you can reach also, right? So I don't think that middle class necessarily, when they understand, they don't. But two things, I think. One is that when you look at the cost, it was definitely an expensive product.
మీరు పెట్టినప్పుడు
2013 లో పెట్టినప్పుడు it was 25,000. Today the cost has gone to around 6,000, 6,500. So there has been a big drop in terms of pricing. That makes it easy for people to do, and once in a lifetime cheyali. You don't have to do it every year. It's not like a blood test that you have to keep on every 3 months cheyali, 6 months cheyali. You do it once. Tarvata you can find out which blood test also you can personalize, right? So let's say naku type 2 diabetes risk undi, then I will make sure I test HbA1c. I will test the ones that are important, not just pick one which is there for everybody, right? So that is an important thing that helps you to sort of personalize and make that better. The second thing is that we found out, we are currently doing on study also, that people are not actually worried after they do the test. There are only people who think that they will be worried if they do it. Because what you are helping them understand is not that what disease you will get. We are helping them understand that how do you tackle the disease today. If you had that, what can you do so you don't get the disease, right? So for instance, I'm at double the risk of diabetes. I have a very strong family history. But if you look at my, I track my sugars on a regular basis. I don't have any, I'm nowhere close to being a diabetic. I'm 50 years old today. So I think there are ways that you can do it if you are aware, right? if you know about it, you will be more careful about it, right? When you measure something, you are always also making sure that you are changing that, right? So it is the same thing that.
But all said and done, Anu, generally in any family, ఎవరైనా ఏదైనా ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్ పెట్టడంలో కానీ ఏదైనా ఇల్లు కొనటానికి కానీ లేకపోతే ఇంకేదన్నా దానికోసం కానీ డబ్బులు పెట్టడానికి సిద్ధంగా ఉంటారు. అండ్ వాళ్ళ కెరియర్ కోసం, ఎడ్యుకేషన్ కోసం ఎంత దాకన్నా వెళ్తారు. ఒక ఆరోగ్యం విషయానికి వస్తే వచ్చినప్పుడు చూసుకుందాం, వీళ్ళు క్రాస్ ద బ్రిడ్జ్ వన్ వి కమ్ అక్రాస్ అన్న ఒక యాటిట్యూడ్ ఉంటుంది. ప్రివెన్షన్ ఈజ్ బెటర్ దెన్ క్యూర్ అన్నది మనకి ఆ నానుడి ఉన్నా కూడా చాలామందికి అది ఎక్కదు మైండ్లోకి. ప్రివెన్షన్ ఇప్పుడు తెలుసుకొని సడన్గా అందులో ఏమైనా బయటపడితే అని ఒక ప్యానిక్ అయిపోతారు, ఒక టెన్షన్, అమ్మో హౌ, అక్కడ దాకా రాకుండా ఎందుకు అన్న ఆ యాటిట్యూడ్ని మీరు ఎలా మార్చగలుగుతున్నారు?
సో ఇప్పుడు ఆఫ్టర్ కోవిడ్ చాలా మందికి యాటిట్యూడ్ చేంజ్ అయిపోయింది. వన్, అందరికి తెలుస్తుంది వాట్ ఈస్ డిఎన్ఏ, వాట్ ఈస్ ఆర్ఎన్ఏ, రైట్? దట్ ఈస్ వన్ థింగ్. సెకండ్ ఇస్, ఇప్పుడు చాలా మందికి సడన్లీ యూ సీ దే ఆర్ వెరీ హెల్దీ అండ్ దే కొలాప్స్, రైట్? వీఆర్ సీయింగ్ దట్ ఆల్సో హ్యాపెనింగ్.
సడన్ హార్ట్ అటాక్స్.
సో ఐ థింక్ ఫోకస్ హెల్త్ మీద కొంచెం ఎక్కువ అయిపోయింది. పీపుల్ ఆర్ అవేర్ దట్ ఇట్ మైట్ హ్యాపెన్. అండ్ పైన నుంచి చూస్తే if they are saying if all are healthy, you really don't know what is underneath, right? And genetics gives you that lens to basically look into that, what we feel that is like an iceberg and you are down over there. So we help people understand those risks, right, which are not so obvious to people. And because people will be like, no, she was perfectly fine or he was perfectly fine, he went for a walk, exerted a little bit and then suddenly collapsed, right? So we are seeing a lot of that. We are seeing people also develop many other problems as well. And many times people realize that they don't find out about cancer risk till it is stage 4.
Okay.
They'll say, fine, I'm just feeling a little bit bad, but you are fine. You continue till you can't bear it anymore. But people now are aware. So if they are aware and they know there's a family history, a lot of those people are doing it, right? So one is people need to know that this is something you can do something about. It's not that it's not about saying, yes, these are the problems that you are likely to have, but actually it is about these are the solutions that you have, right? And that's where
if you can find it out much earlier.
If you find out, you make those changes. Because if you take any disease, right, take cardiac disease or diabetes or anything like that, any complex disease like this, genes lo koncham effect untundi, but a lot of it is what you do.
Correct.
And people forget that, right?
ఆ చిన్న కరెక్షన్స్ చేస్తే
it is a big difference. 80% cardiac diseases preventable unnai. So why are we not doing it, right? We wait for a problem to occur. We wait for 80% of a blockage to happen or 90% to happen to make those changes. But I think if they realize that you can make changes earlier on in your life, you will probably not reach that point, right? That is what we are helping. That see, today our average lifespan has gone up, right? We are doing ippudu that 90 plus year campaign.
Avunu.
Dantlo we have found so many people who are living this thing, and it is, you look at we want to understand if it is genes only, it is, or it's their healthy habits, and I'm sure it's a combination of the two.
Exactly. No, అంటే దీని కంటిన్యూషన్ ఒక క్వశ్చన్. ఇప్పుడు మీరు మొన్న ఒకటి అనౌన్స్ చేశారు, ఏంటి 90 ఏళ్ల పైబడ్డ వాళ్ళు ఒకసారి మీరు మమ్మల్ని అప్రోచ్ అవుతే వీ వాంట్ టు ఫైండ్ అవుట్, అంటే అసలు ఈ ఏజ్లో కూడా మీరు ఇంత ఫిట్గా, ఇంకా అంటే కనీసం ఒక డిజీజ్ కూడా లేకుండా ఇంతవరకు మీరు ఏజ్ని లాక్కోగలిగారు ఎట్లా అన్నది. సో ఏజింగ్ అన్నది కూడా ఈజ్ ఇట్ జెనెటిక్? అంటే ప్రతి ఒక్కళ్ళు అలాగే ఫ్యామిలీలో పుట్టిన ప్రతి ఒక్కళ్ళు 90 ఏళ్ళు బతుకుతారా? కొంతమంది తొందరగా చనిపోతారు, కొంతమందికి రకరకాల హెల్త్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వస్తాయి. మరి హౌ ఈస్ దిస్ జీన్స్ హెల్పింగ్?
సో ఏజింగ్ like every other disease is a disease. It's a disease. Aging is a disease.
Okay.
And I think when you take corrective actions upfront, you will find some people are very healthy. Even like we have grandmom at home. She has a mental health of like, she knows everybody. She can talk. She walks every day. She had 2 fractures, but she'll still walk. It is the dedication that takes her to this thing, right? And so it is not about just that, yes, there will be some this thing happening, but there are many things you can do to prevent that. So I think now people are starting to study aging as a disease, not as, you can't just say just because they're old they have to get there. I think there are ways we might be able to live up to 120 for all of us, right? I mean, but we have to be healthy to be able to see that happen. We met recently 126-year-old man. He's Swami. Yes.
Okay.
So we had met him recently. So we are finding so many amazing
ఆయన
people.
జీనోపత్రి చేశారా?
అడిగారా? No, it's going on.
Going on?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm just saying that there are so many amazing people in this country of ours, right? We found like, we want to do more than 1,000 to understand. And people are very curious, are people living to that age and what is going on? So I think if the eldest of the family does it, you can see what is going on, and you can also see and make those, you'll be curious about your own Genomepatri, right?
బట్ ఒక లే మ్యాన్ లాంగ్వేజ్లో మీరు ఈ విషయాన్ని ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయాలంటే, టెక్నాలజీ సైన్స్ పక్కన పెట్టండి, ఇప్పుడు జీనోపత్రి ఒక వ్యక్తి ఎలా చేయించుకోవాలి, చేయించుకుంటే దాని ద్వారా ఏమేమి బయటపడతాయి, అంటే ఏమేమి మీరు కనుక్కోగలుగుతారు, ఒక సాధారణ అసలు చదువు రాని వాళ్ళకు కూడా అర్థమయ్యే భాషలో మీరు చెప్పాల్సి వస్తే ఏం చెప్తారు?
ఫస్ట్ అది ఏ మెడిసిన్ మీకు పనిచేస్తుంది,
ఏ మెడిసిన్ మీకు పనిచేస్తుంది అందులో తెలుస్తుంది. ఓకే.
సెకండ్ మీకు ఎక్కడ మీకు డెఫిషియన్సీ ఉంటాయి, అది తెలిసిపోతుంది. అండ్ దెన్ యూ కెన్ ఫుడ్ ద్వారా లేకపోతే యువర్ సప్లిమెంట్స్ ద్వారా యూ కెన్ చేంజ్ దట్. థర్డ్ ఇస్ ఎక్కడ ఏ డిజీజ్ లో మీకు కొంచెం రిస్క్ ఉంది, ఆ రిస్క్ లో ఏం చేయాలి, అది
అంటే డిజీజ్ అంటే ఏదన్నా అవ్వచ్చు, హార్ట్ కి సంబంధించి, కిడ్నీ కి సంబంధించి, క్యాన్సర్లు.
హార్ట్ లో 80% ప్రివెంటబుల్ ఉంటాయి. 60% డయాబెటీస్ ప్రివెంటబుల్ ఉంటాయి. సో అది విచ్ మీన్స్ దట్ a lot of people are not doing it early enough to be able to do that, right? So it is not a destiny, it is basically helping you understand so you can prevent. Another interesting things undi, we ancestry lo ekkada మీ ఫ్యామిలీ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చింది,
మీ పూర్వీకులు అంటే జస్ట్ 5-6 జనరేషన్స్ బ్యాక్ కాదు, ఈవెన్ 15, 20, 30
ఎప్పుడో లైక్ ఫ్రమ్ ద టైమ్ ఆఫ్రికా నుంచి స్టార్ట్ చేశారు. సో రైట్ నౌ వాట్ వీఆర్ డూయింగ్ ఇస్, కొంచెం మీరు 70% రాజస్థాన్లో ఉన్న 30% తెలంగాణలో whatever that sort of.
Okay.
So that is an interesting thing to understand. Inka you can find out about if you actually have problems like thalassemia or cystic fibrosis. If meeku mutation undi, it is fine. But if your partner also has that, then the chances of passing it to the child is high. So that's what we also help understand. So these are the few areas that we help understand. మీకు high blood pressure ఉంటుందా లేదా, ఆర్ మీకు యూ వాంట్ టు లూజ్ వెయిట్ లూజ్ చేయాలి, ఎట్లా చేయాలి, దెన్ వీ హెల్ప్ దెమ్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఇది XYZ చేయాలి, అండ్ దెన్ యూల్ బి ఏబుల్ టు లూజ్ వెయిట్. సో క్వశ్చన్స్ కుడ్ బి, మీకు యూ వాంట్ టు లూజ్ వెయిట్, సెకండ్ ఇస్ యూ వాంట్ టు హ్యావ్ అది ఏ మెడిసిన్స్ మీకు
పనిచేస్తే తెలుసుకోవటం,
థర్డ్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చా, where did I come from? Then a food naaku saripothu, like will be working well for me, what nutrition, nenu if I'm athlete, if I'm a child learning to become the next Sachin Tendulkar or somebody else, the fitness activities will work for me. Where do I have any cardiac risks over there also, to understand what kind of games, whether I want to be a PT Usha or somebody else, whether you can do short distance or long distance. So these are some of the things you can answer.
Wonderful. So ఇప్పుడు నేను జీనోపత్రి చేయించుకుంటే నాకు ఒకటి తెలుస్తుందేమో, నేను చైనా నుంచి వచ్చానా, కొరియా నుంచి వచ్చానా, బికాస్ నా బిల్ట్ ఈస్ వెరీ షార్ట్, నా ముక్కు బ్లంట్, సో ఐ థింక్ ఐ డోంట్ బిలాంగ్ టు సౌత్ ఇండియా.
We don't know, we'll find out, we can do it and find out, right?
Very interesting.
So I think I'm from Rajasthan.
You're from Rajasthan?
Yeah, I'm from Rajasthan. So we came from, so you can see some of it will be towards like Iran and others, but for me Pakistan will be there, because Pakistan and Rajasthan are pretty connected. So you could see most of that, and a very little that came from that was common in other parts of the country. Right? But for some people we are seeing very interesting mix of they are pretty much spread across the different states. So that's the fascinating part, right? And I think if we study enough samples, we'll see where everybody, how the migration pattern has happened over the last many years.
అయితే ఇప్పుడు ఈ యాన్సిస్టర్స్ ఎవరు అన్నది తెలుసుకున్నప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు ఈ జీన్స్లో ఎప్పుడో ఒక 90 ఏళ్ల క్రితం ఉన్న యాన్సిస్టర్స్ 100 ఏళ్ల క్రితం ఉన్న జనరేషన్ యాన్సిస్టర్స్లోని జీన్ కూడా కలుస్తుందండి? కలుస్తుంది. ఇది ఒకవేళ వాళ్ళల్లో ఉన్న ఏదన్నా ఒక అట్రిబ్యూట్, ఒక క్వాలిటీ మనకు రావచ్చు ఛాన్స్ ఉంది.
సో బేసిక్లీ అది జీన్స్ ఎట్లా ప్రాపగేట్ అవుతాయి, దెర్ ఆర్ టూ థింగ్స్, రైట్? వన్ ఈస్ the actual DNA, right? You have half DNA from mother, half from your father, right? But in that DNA, there are also now other markers that are there. So if you study the whole genome, there is a whole new science that is coming up of epigenetics. So you can also understand meer em chesar dantlo also you can start seeing the effects of that also, right? But one is just propagation, right? Your ancestors gave it to the next generation nunchi next generation, and that's how you will study that. The second is, how do you study the effects of environment and behavior? Genes from ancestors ante basically you are getting your DNA is coming from your parents. That is what we are measuring in terms of Genomepatri. But ఇప్పుడు ఇంకోటి వస్తుంది ఎపిజెనెటిక్స్ అంటారు. సో దాంట్లో DNA లోపల ఇఫ్ యూఆర్ డూయింగ్ అ ఫుల్ సీక్వెన్సింగ్ యూ కెన్ ఆల్సో స్టార్ట్ స్టడింగ్. వీ డోంట్ డూ ఇట్ ఇన్ ఇప్పుడు జీనోమ్పత్రిలో చేయట్లేదు, బట్ యూ కెన్ సీ ద ఎఫెక్ట్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్ ఆన్ దాట్ as well. So that would be another new thing that can be done. So ఇప్పుడు anything you do is not hidden from your DNA.
Wonderful. Yeah. Very well. సో నాకు ఒక క్యూరియస్ క్వశ్చన్. ఇప్పుడు కొంతమంది ఫ్యామిలీస్లో ఒక 2-3 జనరేషన్లుగా డాక్టర్లు ఉంటారు. వాళ్ళ నెక్స్ట్ జనరేషన్ వాళ్ళు యాక్టర్లు అవ్వచ్చు, లాయర్లు అవ్వచ్చు. వాళ్ళకి అసలు డాక్టర్ జీన్ అంటే డాక్టర్ మీద ఇంట్రెస్టే ఉండకపోవచ్చు. కొన్ని ఫ్యామిలీస్లో అమోఘమైన సింగర్స్ ఉంటారు, బట్ వాళ్ళ పుట్టిన పిల్లలు పరమ చెత్తగా పాడొచ్చు. అంటే దే వోంట్ హ్యావ్ దట్ సెన్స్ ఆఫ్ మ్యూజిక్ ఆర్ ఆ శృతి జ్ఞానం, తాళ జ్ఞానం లేకపోయి ఉండొచ్చు. కొన్ని ఫ్యామిలీస్లో యాక్టర్స్ ఉంటారు, బట్ దే చిల్డ్రన్ దే వోంట్ లవ్ యాక్టింగ్, దే వాంట్ టు గెట్ ఇన్ టు సంథింగ్. ఇది కూడా జెనెటికా, లేకపోతే ఇది ఓన్లీ ఇంట్రెస్టా? అంటే ఓకే నాకు ఈ ఫీల్డ్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్, ఆ ఫీల్డ్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ అని వెళ్ళిపోవడమేనా, లేకపోతే అది కూడా జెనెటిక్ ఉంటుందా?
ఇప్పుడు a lot of it is genetic, but some of it is, see, nothing is just one thing or the other.
Exactly. But నేను అనేది పర్సంటేజ్ వైజ్ ఇఫ్ వి థింక్.
సో ఇఫ్ యూ సీ,
మా ఇంట్లోనే తీసుకోండి, ఇప్పుడు నా ప్రీవియస్ జనరేషన్, అంతకు ముందు జనరేషన్, మా మొత్తం ఒక 3-4 తరాలలో ఎవరు పాటలు పాడరు. బట్ ఐ సింగ్ అండ్ మై డాటర్ సింగ్. అంటే ఎట్లా పాడతామంటే మేమే గొప్ప గాయకులుగా పాడము, బట్ వీ హ్యావ్ దట్ ఆ శృతి జ్ఞానం, తాళ జ్ఞానం. మేము సంగీతం నేర్చుకున్నాము, సో మాకు ఆ జ్ఞానం ఉంది. బట్ ఇఫ్ వీ లుక్ ఎట్ మై గ్రాండ్ పేరెంట్స్ ఆర్ మై పేరెంట్స్, దే జస్ట్ సో బ్యాడ్ సింగర్స్. సో హౌ డస్ దట్ హ్యాపెన్?
So I think you might have inherited a gene from
ekkado,
somewhere, and now you passed it on to your children also, right?
Okay.
But you would have seen that ఇప్పుడు కొన్ని genetic studies చేశారు. దాంట్లో they understood that ఆ ఘరానాస్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, మ్యూజిక్ ఘరానాస్, అందరికి కొంచెం సిమిలర్. అది there are some genes that look at your ability to matching the tone, you understand the differences. అందరికి ఉండదు. But those who have find it easier to be able to also potentially sing as well, right? So one of it is that. Second is how well the sing is developed. So your genetics, but also enta practice chesa, right? If you don't practice it,
అది కూడా పోతుంది.
కరెక్ట్. నాకు ఫర్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఐ హ్యావ్ ద స్ప్రింట్ జీన్ ఉన్నాయి, బట్ నేను ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయలేదు, అందుకని ఐ డోంట్ విన్ ఎనీ, ఐ డోంట్ విన్ ఎనీ.
నాట్ అ పీటీ ఉషా.
I didn't become. I could have become.
You could have become, but you didn't practice.
Yes. So I did play for my school and college, but it was not. You have to have at least 10,000 hours of practice or whatever, right? Some number of this thing to be able to get to the level that you want to get. So for every interesting talent or anything that is there, some of it is genetic. Today I was talking to a photographer. He's, I think some people have a natural inclination towards being able to do it. Right? But if you never picked up the camera and never took a photograph, there is no way you're going to develop that further, right? So same thing in singing also. I'm sure because you sing, your singing has become better over the years. But you were probably better in singing than maybe some people who have also learnt but never could. Right. So a lot of my classmates were forced to sing. For instance, their parents said,
ఇంట్లో నేర్పిస్తారు,
నేర్చుకోవాలి, you have to dance నేర్చుకోవాలి, singing నేర్చుకోవాలి. But not everybody is interested or inclined towards that. So I think that's what is, genetics will, we say genetics loads the gun, but your environment and your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
2013లో మీరు మ్యాప్ మై జీనోమ్ ఈ స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు, ఈ జీనోమ్ పత్ర ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్తో ముందుకు వచ్చినప్పుడు మొట్టమొదటిగా అది ఎవరి మీద ఫస్ట్ మీరు టెస్ట్ చేసుకున్నారు? మీ ఫ్యామిలీయా, మీరా, లేకపోతే
ఫస్ట్ మీరా? Not only in our own, but I had already started in 2011. Before that, I started with other companies also too.
Okay.
So we did some of that. We did an analysis, made sure our algorithm was okay. Then we did the first 200,000 people which were close this thing.
So clinical trials ముందు మేము చేసుకున్నాం.
And then we did the commercial launch. So only after.
So మీ మీద ఫస్ట్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు మీరు కనుక్కున్న కొన్ని ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ రెవల్యూషన్స్ ఏంటి? అంటే యూ నీడ్ నాట్ టెల్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్, బట్ సంథింగ్ అబౌట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్ విచ్ యూ ఫౌండ్.
అది స్ప్రింట్ జీన్ ఉన్నాయి.
that was one. పాకిస్తాన్ జీన్స్
నాకున్నాయి, మై సిస్టర్ కూడా ఉంది.
ఓకే.
So that was an interesting thing. And that is not very common. It was in the hundreds of samples we did. So that was one interesting. Second thing I found was that I had a B12 deficiency. But I found out the hard way. Once I was telling that one doctor told me that I have carpal tunnel syndrome and I should get it operated. Luckily, another doctor told me to test for B12 and we found it was B12. But on my Genomepatri, it was already there, right? But of course, this was in 2000, not
2000.
2003 or something. So we didn't have Genomepatri then. But it would have been easy to find that.
Right.
Inkoti naku type 2 diabetes ki risk undi.
ఉందని అక్కడ అందరూ వచ్చింది.
Okay. And family history కూడా ఉంది.
Okay.
But I've always been careful.
So you're working on it.
Yeah, I've been working, and I think today my blood sugar levels are,
normal.
Never have. I mean, I never let it go beyond a certain point.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I think that is the advantage of knowing that you might be at risk. So you take those necessary precautions. అది నేను చేసుకున్నా. Second is I also found out that where my ancestors are from. And then I found out that if I have diabetes, if in the future I have diabetes, I know metformin will be fine for me, even though it doesn't work for my mother. It worked for my father. So you can see interesting things.
Got it. అయితే ఒకటి, ఇప్పుడు మనకి ఈ రిస్క్ ఉంది అని తెలిసినప్పుడు ఇది కంప్లీట్గా అవాయిడబుల్లా లేకపోతే కరెక్టబుల్లా? అంటే మేనేజబుల్లా లేకపోతే కంప్లీట్గా అవాయిడబుల్?
In most cases you can correct it if you do it early enough.
Okay.
Right? If you start from like కొన్ని diseases కొంచెం late కి వస్తాయి, కొన్ని diseases come early. So it depends on when you start taking those corrective steps, right? So I think that is an interesting thing. The other is some diseases are more heritable than the others, right? So some things like mental health, some of the, those of them are more heritable.
Okay.
So cancers are actually not that heritable.
నిజమా?
Yes.
చాలా మంది క్యాన్సరే హెరిటబుల్ అంటారు.
Only 10 to 15% or less is heritable. So people shouldn't get worried. If you have a risk for cancer, make sure you don't do things that will make it worse, right? If you take lung cancer, 50% of your risk is coming from smoking, not from your genes. So if you already are at risk, then by smoking you are adding to the risk.
Exactly. Got it.
So people have to realize that this is just a helpful guide for you. It is not like a destiny. ఇప్పుడు Genomepatri-లో like it will say if you have something, what you can see is that there is very likelihood that it will match your family history, right? Even though we don't take it, because there will be somebody who would have might have got it. But people who have been careful, healthy, probably won't get it.
బట్ క్యాన్సర్ విషయానికి వస్తే అందరిలో ఒక నోషన్ ఏముందంటే క్యాన్సర్ వస్తే మాత్రం ఇంకంతే సంగతులు, you're going to die అన్నది no సాధారణంగా జనాల్లో ఉన్న ఒక ఒపీనియన్. అంటే ఫస్ట్ స్టేజ్, సెకండ్ స్టేజ్, థర్డ్ స్టేజ్ అన్న జ్ఞానం ఎంతమందికి ఉందో తెలియదు. బట్ ద మూమెంట్ యూ హియర్ ద వర్డ్ క్యాన్సర్, ఇట్ ఈస్ లైక్
it's like
panic. It is like dreadful. అందరూ అనుకునేది ఏంటంటే ఇంకా చనిపోతారు, దట్స్ ఇట్, డెత్ ఈస్ ద ఓన్లీ థింగ్, ఇఫ్ నాట్ టుడే టుమారో అన్న ఒక ఒపీనియన్ ఉంటుంది. సో
I think one thing is all of us are going to die, right?
బట్ ఇప్పుడు చనిపోతాము అని ముందే తెలిసిపోతే అది ఇంకా కొంచెం డ్రెడ్ఫుల్గా ఉంటుంది కదా అన్నది ఒక ఒపీనియన్. అంటే ఇఫ్ దిస్ డిజీజ్, సో అంటే వాట్ ఐమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు టెల్ యూ ఇస్, ఇప్పుడు ఒకవేళ క్యాన్సర్ జీన్ ఉంది మనకి అని తెలిస్తే ముందు ఇమోషనల్గా మెంటల్గా కూడా డౌన్ అయిపోవచ్చు కదా. అంటే డిజీజ్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత దానికి దాని క్యూర్ వేరు, బట్ ముందే వచ్చేస్తుందేమో ఇప్పుడు ఒక 10 ఏళ్ల తర్వాత 15 ఏళ్ల తర్వాత అంటే ఇప్పటి నుంచే భయపడిపోయి మెంటల్ టెన్షన్కి వెళ్ళిపోయి మెంటల్ హెల్త్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ తెచ్చుకొని హౌ డు యూ వాట్ యూ సే అబౌట్ దట్?
అట్లా రాదు. సో ఫర్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఇఫ్ యూ టేక్ బ్రెస్ట్
ఇప్పుడు
క్యాన్సర్,
ఆంజలినా జోలీదే జరిగింది, షీ గాట్ ఇట్ టెస్టెడ్, రైట్? యా, యూ కెన్ టేక్ ఫ్రమ్ హర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్.
So we can take Angelina Jolie, but otherwise also let's take breast cancer as a disease. US has reduced the whole problem of breast cancer by 90% because they started testing early. If you go at stage 1, fully treatable.
Okay.
Right? But people don't go, that is the big problem we have, right? That people are not going to a doctor in time, right? That is one big problem that is there. So I think a lot of disease, even colorectal cancer and others, many of them are treatable, but you have to go there early, right? You go there early. There are some cancers which are harder to, like a glioblastoma or something but most of them are very treatable.
Okay.
But they're treatable if you go there early enough. And that is what people forget to understand. They feel that they won't be affected by cancer till they get it, and then it's too late, right? But what people should understand is, if you have a risk, if you test regularly, you will 100%, many cases you 100% complete remission will be, like you will not get it at all, right? So I think that's what people should know. The earlier you find out, the better it is for you. It is not about telling someone that you have a risk and therefore you have no choice. You have a lot of things you can do which are in your control.
Okay.
Some of it could be preventable, some of it may be at least manageable, right? So let's say if you had a risk for breast cancer, you do things that are in your control, but let's say you still get it. Right? It's possible that you still get it. If you went to the doctor early on, you would be fine.
Treatable.
It's fully treatable. So why won't you do that, right? It is just that if you wait too long, doctor can do nothing. I mean, they'll try, but sometimes it might be too late. So I think it's a matter of a return on investment on your own health, right? Whether you want to put the money upfront or you want to wait till it's too late.
సో మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పటికీ ఇప్పటికీ అవేర్నెస్లో ఎంత పర్సెంటేజ్ పెరిగింది? అలాగే జనాలు ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి టెస్ట్ చేయించుకోవడం, లేకపోతే వాళ్ళ టెస్ట్ స్వాబ్స్ పంపించడం, వీటిలలో పర్సెంటేజ్ వైజ్ వెన్ యూ స్టార్టెడ్ ఇట్ ఆఫ్, హౌ వాజ్ ఇట్ అండ్ టుడే హౌ ఇస్ ఇట్?
I think it has grown like 20-30 times of where we were, right? And I think it has, ఇప్పుడు COVID tarvata, it has almost increased 5 times. So COVID has really, because చాలా మంది didn't go to the hospitals, they were still worried about it.
Correct.
And I think now people want to know. ఇప్పుడు కొన్ని second tier, third tier towns నుంచి కూడా వస్తున్నాయి. సో ఇప్పుడు పీపుల్ కెన్ జస్ట్ అది ఆర్డర్ చేయొచ్చు ఆన్లైన్ వెబ్సైట్లో, లేకపోతే అమెజాన్ ఆర్ ఫ్లిప్కార్ట్, ఎక్కడైనా ఆర్డర్ చేయొచ్చు అండ్ ఇట్ కమ్స్ ఇన్ ద హౌస్. ఎక్కడైనా దే కెన్ బి ఎనీవేర్ ఇన్ ఇండియా. సో దే కెన్ జస్ట్ ప్లేస్ అన్ ఆర్డర్, one small kit comes, they just take a little sample and send it back.
Okay.
So it's not difficult at all.
అసలు ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి చేసుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు, ఇంటి నుంచి కూడా పంపించచ్చు.
ఇంట్లో జస్ట్ వాళ్ళు ఆర్డర్ చేస్తే ఇంట్లో వచ్చేస్తాయి. ఇంట్లో వస్తే దే కెన్ జస్ట్ టేక్, లైక్ బ్రష్ చేస్తున్నా కదా లైక్ దట్, ఇన్స్టెడ్ ఆఫ్ ఆన్ యువర్ టీత్ ఇక్కడ సో ఇక్కడ చీక్లో చేయాలి, ఆ చేసి జస్ట్ క్లోజ్ చేయాలి అంతే. సో ఇట్స్ అ వెరీ ఈజీ ప్రాసెస్, 1 minute కూడా పట్టదు, బట్ ఇట్ హెల్ప్స్ యూ చేంజ్ అ లాట్ ఇన్ యువర్ లైఫ్.
కరెక్ట్.
Second is we are now working with a lot of some of these bigger hospitals to make it part of that health check. It is with that health check.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be able to get to everybody quicker and in front of them. So
ఒక్క క్వశ్చన్ అండి, ఇప్పుడు కోవిడ్ టైంలో చాలా మంది ఫస్ట్ కోవిడ్ వచ్చినప్పుడు అందరూ ఏం భయపడ్డారంటే, ఇండియా లాంటి కంట్రీలో స్ప్రెడ్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, చాలా మంది చనిపోతారు, మోర్టాలిటీ చాలా ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, అది ఇది అని చెప్పారు. ఆన్ ది అదర్ హ్యాండ్ దే సెడ్ ఇండియాలో రెసిస్టెన్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, ఇక్కడ ఇమ్యూనిటీ లెవెల్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటాయి, బికాజ్ ఎక్కువ మంది బిలో పావర్టీ లైన్ ఉన్నారు, వాళ్ళకి గాలికి ధూళికి పెరిగారు, సో వాళ్ళలో చాలా ఇమ్యూనిటీ ఉంటుందని. వాట్ ఈస్ యువర్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ అబౌట్ దిస్?
So we did a study actually. So we found that one, Indians were little bit resistant to get it, but if they get it, sometimes they'll have it bad. Right. So I think in the end, we are in the same level as other places. I think some places we didn't count it as much. That could be another problem, right? So genetically there were some differences, but not Not that, right now, for instance, ippudu kuda, lot of people are dying from COVID, but we are not attributing it because people don't even test now. They're saying, if I don't test, I don't know. And therefore that is there. So people have to be aware that it is still a disease that is will cause and have after effects.
పోస్ట్ కోవిడ్ తో చాలా మంది చనిపోతున్నారు ఇప్పుడు.
Post COVID chala complications untai. So better to test because you will know what is happening. There are blood tests that will help you understand. Ippudu D dimer, for instance, adi inka chala tests unnai to help you understand if there is something that's lingering on, other things like that.
Yeah.
So
అయితే కోవిడ్ కొంతమందికి వచ్చినప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ వేవ్, సెకండ్ వేవ్, థర్డ్ వేవ్లో కూడా ఇష్టం వచ్చినట్టు తిరిగారు, మాస్కులు లేకుండా తిరిగారు, అయినా కొంతమంది ఎఫెక్ట్ అవ్వలేదు, ఇన్ఫెక్ట్ అవ్వలేదు. నథింగ్ హ్యాపెన్ టు దెమ్. దే వర్ నాట్ ఈవెన్ స్నీజింగ్, కఫింగ్. అసలు వాళ్ళకి ఎలాంటి జబ్బు రాలేదు. అది ఎందుకు అంటారు? వాట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ ఫర్ దాట్?
Well, I also didn't get it for 2.5 years, but I got it in
You
August.
got?
Yes, so I can no longer say I was immune.
But ఎందుకు అంత ఇమ్యూనిటీ ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది? Is it genetic?
No, I wore a mask everywhere I went.
Okay.
Right? So I think that really saved me. I think the one when I did catch it, it was because I didn't wear a mask.
Okay.
That was a very clear correlation that yes, I didn't get it. But it was intlo unnai 2 times వచ్చింది intlo. We didn't get it. This time my own mistake. I went to an engagement.
Okay.
And it was a closed room and I got it. So it is clear that if you go, if you have the necessary protective this thing, you will not get it.
బట్ అది జెనెటిక్ కదా? కొన్ని ఫ్యామిలీస్ ఎవరికి రాలేదు. ద హోల్ ఫ్యామిలీ డింట్ గెట్, ఇట్ వాజ్ నాట్ ఇన్ఫెక్టెడ్. అలా ఎలా జరుగుతుంది? Is it genetic?
Some of it is genetic. Others is also how much have you gone out, right? I mean, if some people have not gone out at all. Right?
Okay.
But some people have gone out. Even in families, you would have seen that some people are...
వాళ్ళు ఎటు వెళ్ళలేదు బయటికి, అయినా వాళ్ళకి వచ్చింది చాలా మంది. లైక్ మై మామ్.
Because someone or the other has gone out. Like, you get food from outside. Someone has gone out, got something. So I think people forget that that is where it can come from. But there's many ways that it can come. But yes, there is a genetic risk that different people have, and we did that. The Genomepatri immunity we made and helped to understand. And I think over there also it showed I had potentially high immune this thing. But at the same time, and that's why I think I was saved for a long time.
Correct.
I took the preventive steps, I did that, but eventually got it. So yeah, but it wasn't too bad. After that also it was not like I had a lingering cough or anything. I didn't have cough and all at all. So it was fine. I mean, I didn't have a very bad this thing.
ఓకే. ఇప్పుడు కోవిడ్ వచ్చిన టైంలో ఇంకొక నోషన్ ఏంటి అంటే, చైనాలోని ల్యాబ్ నుంచి ఈ వైరస్ బయటకు వచ్చింది అని అన్నారు. అంటే హౌ మచ్ డూ యూ అగ్రీ టు దిస్, అండ్ ఇఫ్ సో వాట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు సే అబౌట్ దిస్? అంటే వైరస్ పుట్టించు.
No, see, I don't have a finally I don't know the exact truth. I've read a lot, but I think when you read a lot you see both sides of the story. So there is a possibility that I don't think it was done intentionally, but it might have happened that they were doing something and it might have come out, right? That is possible. But again, I'm not, it is not my...
అంటే నేను అనేది కూడా అదే, పాసిబిలిటీ ఉంటుంది ఇలాంటివి జరగడానికి.
Possibility, it can be there, but there are so many, I mean, there are many types of COVID viruses been around for many years. In fact, our body has a lot of viruses and bacteria and many other such things that are there. But I think in this case, what we have to accept is that, yes, whatever way it might have come, it is there.
Yeah.
And it is bad. And it's bad, and we have to make sure that we do the right things. Right? So I think, etla ochindi, I can't make so far, even after reading so much, I can't make a final judgment on how it came out. Right. But at the same time, I think what I do know is that ochindi, we can't go back. We can't say virus go back, right? I think it doesn't do corona go, but the truth is, if it is there, we have to do our best to prevent it. I mean,
ఇప్పుడు జనరల్గా ఒక్కొక్కసారి ఏమంటుంటారంటే, ఈ జెనెటిక్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ అలాగే జెనెటిక్ స్టడీస్ ఇవన్నీ సమ్టైమ్స్ దే ఆర్ నాట్ ఎథికల్, దే ఆర్ ఇల్లీగల్ అని అంటుంటారు. లాట్ ఆఫ్ ద స్టడీస్ హ్యావ్ ఆల్సో ప్రూవ్డ్. ఈవెన్ రీసెంట్గా కూడా చైనాలో ఒక హైబ్రిడ్ హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ని క్రియేట్ చేయాలి అన్నది ఏదో they were trying, I believe, so they were criticized. It was always all in the papers.
Designer baby.
Exactly. So ivanni ante, are we going against nature? Because Darwin's theory is we need to respect nature. So ఆర్ వి గోయింగ్ అగేన్స్ట్ నేచర్? ఈ స్టడీస్ అని చేయటం వల్ల మీ లిమిటేషన్స్ ఏంటి? మీరు ఎంతవరకు ఈ స్టడీస్ని లిమిట్ చేసుకుంటారు, ఎంత బియాండ్ వెళ్ళరు, ఎంత ఎథికల్గా మీరు వర్క్ చేస్తారు?
See, what we are doing is not changing anybody's genes, right? We are just helping people understand
their genes. But ఇది నేను అనేది ఏంటంటే, ఈ జెనెటిక్ స్టడీస్లో ఇలాంటివి జరుగుతుంటాయి కదా, దాన్ని ఎట్లా, హౌ టు అడ్రస్ దట్?
So I think, అది CRISPR technology ఉంది. CRISPR నుంచి what you can do is you can actually change your genetic code. So normally your lot of new drugs are coming out where you address it for that person, right? That I think mostly US FDA and others are, maybe if there is for a real cause and it doesn't change for the future, I think people are okay doing it, because if someone has a problem, for instance an eye related problem or something like that, I think they will get approval, right? From a regulatory point of view. Now the problem ekkadundi is at the level of conception, right? If you change embryo lo change cheste, you are affecting future generations, everybody.
Right.
Adi koncham difficult to, I think you're changing the genetic code for the future generations, for everybody over there. That is where we don't know ఏ ప్రాబ్లం వస్తాయి తర్వాత, రైట్? దట్ ఈస్ అ బిగ్ ఇష్యూ. సో ఎస్, ఇట్ వాస్ డిడ్ హ్యాపెన్, బట్ ఐ థింక్ రెగ్యులేటరీ వైజ్ ఇప్పుడు దెర్ ఈస్ ఐ థింక్ స్టిల్ డిబేట్, and I think ultimately human beings will do what is for the greater good, but it is definitely something that
ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ. సో ఇట్ ఇస్, ఐ మీన్, ఇట్ ఇస్ స్కేరింగ్, ఇట్ ఇస్ పెట్రిఫైయింగ్. అంటే ఇలాంటివి వింటున్నప్పుడు జీన్స్లోనే మార్పులు తీసుకొచ్చేసి ఒక వ్యక్తి, ఒక హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ లోపల వేరే జీన్ పెట్టడం, వేరే మార్పులు తీసుకురావటం అన్నది, ఇట్ ఈస్, వెన్ యూ లిసన్ టు ఇట్, ఇట్ ఈస్ లైక్ స్కేరీ.
But actually, if you think about it also, I'm just being the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
ఇప్పుడు for someone who has a problematic, like a disease that passes on, very heritable problem, for that
ఇలాంటి విషయాలు ఒప్పుకుంటాను, ఐ అగ్రీ.
సో దట్ ఇస్ అదే ప్రాబ్లం కదా, దట్ we all have our own sense of where is good and where is bad, right? కొంతమంది might say, I want someone, a baby who has blue eyes and very high IQ and all, that we will say maybe is not right? But if ఇప్పుడు చూస్తే you're doing IVF, you're doing already you're doing screening చేస్తున్నారు, PGS, PGD చేస్తున్నారు. We are the కొంచెం diseases we are trying to avoid, right? Even when we are doing, for instance, we are helping people understand that two people having same mutation, chances of passing it on is higher, right? So we are giving them knowledge, but we are not doing anything beyond that, right? The question is, what is the right thing, right? From a legal and ethical perspective. And I think that is always going to be a dilemma. We have to figure out, because every individual has a different opinion about that. And I mean, of course, I don't have to take those choices, but we are just doing, helping people understand. And we are telling them, how do you live more healthier lives? It is not about, we are not changing any genetic code. We are not doing anything that changes anything for anyone at any point. It is mostly about taking your sample,
just understanding about your genetic.
So that's why we tell that our logo is know yourself. We are helping you understand yourself better. We are not making any change in your DNA.
Okay.
But a lot of people do ask me, saying, can you make designer babies? And I said, that's not my job, right? I think our job is mostly to help you know more about how you can live a more healthier life. So
అయితే ఒక ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ క్వశ్చన్, జనరల్గా మనం మన కంట్రీలో ఈ క్యాస్ట్ అన్నది, ఈ ఫీలింగ్, క్యాస్ట్ సిస్టమ్ మీద విపరీతమైన ఫోకస్ బాగా ఉంది. ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అవ్వచ్చు, కెరియర్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్ అవ్వచ్చు, రాజకీయాలు అవ్వచ్చు, సినిమా, ఎనీవేర్ క్యాస్ట్ ఈస్ ప్లేయింగ్ అ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ రోల్. కానీ నిజంగా క్యాస్ట్ అనేది కూడా జెనెటిక్ అండి? అంటే కొన్ని క్యాస్ట్లో వాళ్ళకి చాలా తెలివితేటలు ఉంటాయి, కొన్ని క్యాస్ట్లలో వాళ్ళకి డబ్బు సంపాదించే అబిలిటీ ఉంటుంది, కొన్ని క్యాస్ట్లో వాళ్ళకి తెలివి ఉండదు, ఇట్లా అంటుంటారు. ఇస్ ఇట్ రియలీ ట్రూ? Is that also genetic?
Not as much as people would like it to be, because caste, religion, geography are all human constructs, very recent human constructs. DNA చాలా, like it has been there ఎప్పటి నుంచి ఉంది. So కొంచెం, I think a lot of it is just how we want to perceive. So your and my DNA 99.9% alike, right? Difference లేదు, but that కొంచెం little differences that are there that makes you you and it makes me, right? So I think people forget that some of the human constructs are only been around for very short period of time. Even if you look at like a lot of there are some things that make sense, right? They're like who do you marry, right? You don't marry within a certain this thing. That was there to prevent those mutations from happening, right?
Okay.
But castes and all that, some of it does. We do see, like when you do a analysis, you do find that some castes have a very strong, statistically are close together because they haven't married too much outside. But it is not necessary that all of them will be like that. Right? So few of them have some things that are more closely knit than the others. And part of it is more to explain in history than and where they have lived to be able to help understand.
కరెక్ట్. అంటే హిస్టరీలో చూసుకుంటే మనకి ఇండస్ వ్యాలీ సివిలైజేషన్ నుంచి వి డివైడెడ్ ఇంటూ 4 కాస్ట్, బ్రాహ్మణ్, క్షత్రియాస్, వైశ్యాస్ అండ్ శూద్రాస్, అండ్ ఆ తర్వాత నుంచే ఇంకా సబ్ క్యాస్ట్లు చాలా వచ్చేసాయి. బట్ ఈ రోజు సిచ్యువేషన్లో చూసుకుంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ పార్సీస్ ఆర్ వైశ్యాస్ దే హ్యావ్ ద బిజినెస్ అక్యూమెన్ ఉంటుంది వాళ్ళకి. అంటే దే కెన్ నో హౌ టు డూ బిజినెస్, దే ఆర్ వాళ్ళు మనీ ప్రొడ్యూస్ చేయగలుగుతారు, మనీ మేక్ చేయగలుగుతారు, దే ఆర్ ఎకానమీ బిల్డర్స్ ఇలా అంటూ ఉంటారు. అండ్ సమ్ క్యాస్ట్ దే ఆర్ హైలీ నాలెడ్జబుల్. అదే అడుగుతాను, అంటే ఇది నిజంగా అంటే ఇప్పుడు అవుట్ ఆఫ్ ద క్యాస్ట్ పెళ్లి చేసుకోవటం అది వేరు, విత్ ఇన్ ద క్యాస్ట్ if they marry and they give birth to children and it goes on like that, then is there a possibility that thing stays a caste lo untunda ade?
So there are two things, right? And I think if you see a lot of the community, some of which you mentioned, and I'm Marwadi, so I can but Marwadi Brahmin,
exactly,
right? But I think what is interesting is that many of these people came out of their comfort zone, right? So if you look at some of these communities that became business communities, they're people who left their homes because there were a lot of problems in terms of desert areas and or other areas where it was hard for them to succeed in their own environment. They went out. They created communities, right? So if you go today, someone who goes out from Rajasthan or Gujarat or somewhere else, they went to other parts of the country. When someone else came there, they created that community. Then what happened is, over a period of time, they helped each other out. And that help also created how to build, right? So they sort of, lot of it was also nurture. And part of it could be nature because in that environment, their genes automatically, the ones that were best to survive, were surviving. So I think it is both genes and it is also what happened with the communities. The second thing is also that in some communities, we value something over the other, right? And they become like that. So ఇప్పుడు మనం we go to US for instance, right? US, Canada, ఎక్కడికి వెళ్తే we are not looking then whether you are from which caste or something. We are looking at Indians.
Indians కంటూ ఒక వాల్యూ సిస్టమ్ ఉంటుంది.
Indians and even Pakistanis and even Bangladeshis, everybody becomes part of our community. But if you come to Hyderabad, then you will find different
North
level
Indian,
of granularity,
South Indian,
right? So it is about that, right? Where you connect with and what you are perceived at. So ఇప్పుడు US లో అందరు చెప్తారు, oh, we are all engineers and doctors. But that's not true of India, right? I mean, it is what the majority of the people perceive us to be. So I think some of it is genetic because of what
some
struggles.
Of it is genetic, but not all of it. Okay.
But others will be more based on what has happened over the last few years. How did we build those social connections?
Okay.
What has happened in that environment? So everything, like whether it is looking at diseases, whether you're looking at, is a combination of both genes and environment and your lifestyle that is there, that has contributed to what people perceive. Right, and I think that is the interesting part, that genetics often teaches us not just about genetics and science, but also about history and geography and other such things.
సో జెనెటిక్గా ఖచ్చితంగా పాస్ అయ్యేవి ఒక 5-6 చెప్పాల్సి వస్తే అవి ఏంటండి? అంటే ఈజ్ ఇట్, అంటే నేను అనేది మెంటల్ థింగా, లేకపోతే మెంటల్ హెల్తా, లేకపోతే డయాబెటీసా, బీపీ, వాట్ ఒక 5-6 ఖచ్చితంగా చెప్పాల్సి వస్తే ఇది ఖచ్చితంగా జెనెటిక్ అని చెప్పాల్సి వస్తే ఏముంటాయి అవి ఏంటవి?
ఇప్పుడు చాలా సింగిల్ జీన్ డిజార్డర్స్ ఉంటాయి. దోస్ ఆర్ మోస్ట్లీ జెనెటిక్, రైట్? ఇఫ్ యూ టేక్ ది థాలసీమియా, సిస్టిక్ ఫైబ్రోసిస్ అని, ఇఫ్ if parents both have the carrier, it is likely that 1/4 of the children like that it will come. Those will be, those
Pakka
are
genetic.
They are pakka genetic. So you find even small children might inherit a particular disease and get that. So those those single gene disorder, 100%, those are very heritable and they're there. Second thing is some of the other mental health problems also are quite heritable.
ఓకే, అంటే ఇప్పుడు ఒకవేళ ఒక 3-4 జనరేషన్స్ క్రితం వాళ్ళకి ఎవరికైనా సూసైడల్ టెండెన్సీస్, డిప్రెషన్లు, లేకపోతే అగ్రెషన్స్ ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నాయనుకోండి, బైపోలార్, ఇవి పాస్ అవుతాయా?
Bipolar is quite heritable.
Genetic.
But there are again things that you can do to
కరెక్ట్ చేయొచ్చు అంటారు.
right. So there are many things that we realize, and bipolar, I think there are different levels that are there. So similarly, I think when you look at schizophrenia and others, there are things that are heritable, but those would be something. So single gene disorders would be the most heritable ones. Then you look at things that are highly heritable. Then you can look at other things like your complex diseases, which would be a lot more to do with your environment and other things that you can do. But one more ekdam clear diagnosis also, a lot of the pharmacogenomics, which medicine meeku panchestai, that is very clear. And then there are others that are there. So konni levels of I think different levels of understanding of what is fully heritable or not. And we are more and more understanding that everything is sort of more a combination.
Okay. What about obesity, overeating, then సన్నగా ఉండటము, height, ఇవన్నీ కూడా జెనెటికా?
A lot of it is genetic, but also it's about what they've eaten, right?
Lifestyle కూడా ఉంటుంది.
Lifestyle కూడా ఉంటుంది. There are markers for height in this thing, but you find that even in some we are finding an average height has increased, right? It's based on what people are eating,
right?
That is one. Right. Obesity also, there is we have genetic markers, but there are people who have obesity risk, but are still, if they try hard, they are able to lose weight and are fine.
I know, I'm so impressed by the work, the kind of the volume of work that you're doing. But నాకు ఒక క్యూరియస్ క్వశ్చన్ అగైన్ అబౌట్ వై దిస్ ఫీల్డ్. అంటే జనరల్గా చాలామంది విమెన్, అంటే ఐమ్ ఆస్కింగ్ ఎ వెరీ స్టీరియోటిపికల్ క్వశ్చన్, పార్డన్ మీ ఫర్ దట్, బట్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద విమెన్ దే గెట్ ఇన్ టు ఐదర్ ఎంప్లాయ్మెంట్ ఆర్ ఈవెన్ ఇఫ్ దే గో ఒక ఆంటర్ప్రీనర్స్గా వెళ్దాం అనుకున్నా, దే చూస్ సంథింగ్ డిఫరెంట్, సంథింగ్ రెగ్యులర్, నాట్ డిఫరెంట్. బట్ మీరు నేను ఫస్ట్ టైం అంటే చాలా రేర్గా సైంటిస్ట్ల సైడు లేకపోతే లైఫ్ సైన్సెస్ సైడు ఒక ఆంటర్ప్రీనర్షిప్గా ఒక కెరియర్ని తీసుకుందామనే విమెన్ చాలా తక్కువ మంది ఉంటారు. వై దట్ కెరియర్?
So, I mean, maybe because no one told us that we shouldn't do it. Right?
Wonderful, yeah.
But I think my father is a professor of physics. And intlo environment full scientific. Andaru, all of us became engineers and scientists. We are 4 brothers and sisters. Andaru IT lo chadivaru. Andaru, I mean, all of them are doing one
strong genes.
Genes or environment, again, it's both of those things, right?
Yeah, right.
So one is that the environment in the house was very conducive to doing something like this. And no one told us that we shouldn't do anything. In fact, we were only encouraged that it doesn't. We are 3 sisters and 1 brother. Never been a challenge. And then when we grew up, also I think genetically, I think, I mean, many times people make these stereotypic this thing that you have to be like this, women are like this and men are like this. But the truth is that I think, sometimes there might be more men who have feminine characteristics and more women who have,
masculine characteristics.
Or supposedly masculine characteristics. So I'm saying these are all things that we have defined over a period of time. And I think that definition, forces people to sort of comply.
But you changed it 25 years back only. 25 క్రితమే మార్చేశారు మీరు. ఇప్పుడు మారింది కాదు కదా అది. ఓవర్ ద పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ కోర్స్ చాలా మారాయి, బట్ 25 క్రితం ఇట్ వాస్ నాట్ దట్.
It was not that, because I think at that point we didn't discover. So I think if you look at even when I was talking about Rajasthan lo, Gujarat lo, people came out. You have to come out of your comfort zone,
right?
Create those communities, and then you develop and you will do better than the rest of this thing, right? I think we haven't yet reached that level where we have been able to create those great communities of this thing among ourselves. Everyone is busy in their own little, where they live right now. And I think once you come out of that, then you are able to do. right?
అయితే అనదర్ మై క్యూరియస్ క్వశ్చన్ ఈస్, నార్మల్గా అగైన్ దే సే దట్ విమెన్ హ్యావ్ మోర్ ఇమోషనల్ కోషంట్ దెన్ ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ కోషంట్ అని. అంటే దే ఆర్ మోర్ అటాచ్ టు ద ఫ్యామిలీ సిస్టమ్, హస్బెండ్, చిల్డ్రన్. అండ్ వాళ్ళు ఎంత స్ట్రాంగ్ విల్తో పవర్లో పని చేసుకుంటూ పోతున్నా కూడా ఎక్కడైనా ఇంట్లో ఏమన్నా జరిగితే దే ఇమీడియట్లీ go run and attend to it, and if they are not able to attend they feel guilty. So ivanni cheppandi, did you break any of these stereotypes in your life?
I mean, I think my husband is probably more
Okay. Progressive. Not progressive.
Not only progressive, but I think it is wrong for us to say that men don't feel the same way for their families.
No, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think it is, in our case, we both have been able to share that. But I think more than both of us, it's my mother-in-law who shared the majority of what is there.
బట్ దట్స్ వాట్ నా క్వశ్చనే అది కదా. అంటే ఎప్పుడైనా హౌస్ హోల్డ్ వర్క్స్, ఇంట్లో పిల్లల పని, ఆ పని, ఈ పని చేస్తే ఆడవాళ్ళే చేయాలి. మెన్ డోంట్ డూ దట్ మచ్. అంటే ఐఎమ్ నాట్ సెయింగ్ దే ఆర్ నాట్ దేర్, బట్
ఇప్పుడు యుఎస్ లోకి వెళ్తే యూ ఫైండ్ మెనీ మోర్ మెన్, సేమ్ ఇండియన్ మెన్ ఆల్సో డూ అ లాట్ ఆఫ్ వర్క్. ఇప్పుడు ఇండియాలో వస్తే దే డోంట్. వై? బికాస్ యూ ఆల్సో క్రియేటెడ్ దట్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్, రైట్? యూ మేక్ పీపుల్ డూ దిస్. ఇప్పుడు ఇది పాపకు చేయాలి, ఇది బాబు చేయాలి, రైట్? దట్ ఈస్ ద ప్రాబ్లమ్. వీ స్టార్ట్ దట్ కండిషనింగ్ అప్ ఫ్రంట్. అది చేంజ్ చేస్తే ఆటోమేటిక్లీ వీ విల్ చేంజ్ దట్, రైట్? బట్ రైట్ నౌ ఐ థింక్ ఇఫ్
మీరు మీ విషయం చెప్పండి. మీరు ఎంతవరకు అంటే ఈ బ్యాలెన్స్ చేస్తారు, ద వర్క్ లైఫ్ బ్యాలెన్స్లో, ఎస్పెషలీ విత్ రిగార్డ్స్ యువర్ కిడ్స్, దేర్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్, దేర్ బ్రాటప్, ఆర్ దేర్ ఇమోషనల్ కనెక్ట్, ఇవన్నీ మీరు ఎలా మేనేజ్ చేస్తారు? డోంట్ దే మిస్ ద మదర్? బికాస్ మదర్ ఇస్ సో బిజీ.
వీ లివ్ ఇన్ అ జాయింట్ ఫ్యామిలీ. ఇప్పుడు గ్రాండ్ మదర్ ఉంది, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law, everyone is there. But that is the advantage of staying in a joint family. You have enough people who also enjoy being part of that whole part of the process, and I think that's a great thing that we have in the Indian families, right? That there is a possibility of being able to get a shared sense of who all growing up with somebody like that. I think that is fantastic. But the second thing is also, when I look at whether parent-teacher meetings, it's not that I had to go alone.
Yes.
My husband went probably more than I did sometimes. So I think it is a little wrong to say that, we are,
I totally understand what you say, because నేను కూడా సేమ్ అదే పొజిషన్లో ఉన్నాను. My life is also very busy, morning till evening, I go out to interviews and, editing, lot of work. My husband is the one who takes care. He takes care of the house, my daughter, everything. అంటే ఇంటికి సంబంధించినంత కూడా it's my husband who does that, and he does it happily.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to tell you is, అలా కేసెస్ ఎన్ని ఉంటాయి ఎంతమందికి ఆ సపోర్ట్ సిస్టమ్ ఉంటుంది. మీలాంటి నాలాంటి విమెన్కి ఉండొచ్చు, బట్ చాలా మంది విమెన్ డోంట్ గెట్ దట్ ప్రివిలేజ్. సో వాట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు సే అబౌట్ దట్?
No, I think that we have to change, right? And I'm saying, when, again, like I say, if we take the same set of people and put them outside of their current environment, they're doing it, right? There is a necessity,
right?
So you are able to create that. So I think we have to do two things. One is to change how people perceive in the beginning. And second is that maybe people who live outside have figured that out because they just didn't have a choice, right? But at the same time, I think we'll have to make that as part of education. I think make that as part of how we are growing up. But also, I think which I'm curious about is that at least our future generations, kids have a completely different view of the world than we did.
Right.
So I have a lot of hope that, a lot of these gender stereotyping and other stereotyping, I think will go away eventually, right? And we are starting to see a little bit of that happen. And maybe over a period of time, we'll see that there's more acceptance of not just what we accept of just today as, one or the other. But I think there are many more. People have started looking at it as a multitude of people. So I am hopeful that it will happen. But, I think there is a lot more education that we need to do. We need to also make sure that, we all compliment people who are respectful of others, and that as a community we can support each other as well, right? And I think those changes need to happen, and I think it is slowly starting to happen, but not quite wide enough yet. I agree.
So when you started it off, what was the intention behind? అంటే ఇంటెన్షన్ కేవలం ఇలాంటి ఒక సిస్టమ్ని క్రియేట్ చేసి అందరికీ హెల్త్ మీద అవేర్నెస్ తీసుకురావాలి అన్నది మెయిన్ మోటివా, లేకపోతే వాజ్ ఇట్ బిజినెస్ ఆల్సో? అంటే బిల్డింగ్ అన్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్, creating jobs and creating money, taking it forward, making it big. ఎలాంటి విజన్ ఉండే యాక్చువల్గా మీరు స్టార్ట్ చేసినప్పుడు?
So I think for me the vision was twofold. One was that clearly medicine is moving, healthcare is moving towards precision medicine. So you will need to look at aspects of genomics and other things and have enough data to sort of move there. So it has to be predictive undali, personalized undali and all that. So one was that you can see that that is where the future is. And if you don't do something about it now, Indians will be left behind. That was number one. The second thing is on prevention. If you don't look at it as from prevention, if you don't make those changes now, I think we will see a lot more, the healthcare, we will not be able to support it as a country, right? How many Apollo hospitals will you put, right? I mean, correct. You can't keep putting hospitals after a hospital or a Fortis or any of the other large hospitals. I think there is a certain limitation because you don't have enough doctors, you don't have enough this thing, and plus you need to keep up with the times, right? There are a lot of new things that have happened. So I think that if you look at all of that, we are starting to see ఇప్పుడు healthcare is becoming more consumer focused, right? We all pay for our own healthcare, right? We pay hospital ke helte, we are paying for our own healthcare unless you are in the Pradhan whatever the Ayushman Bharat or something, right? So I think because you are paying for your own health, you should make sure that as a consumer, people should be aware that if you put little money, you will get more return. But if you don't do that now, you end up spending more money, right? So I think in India, consumers are the ones who have the money in their hands. It is not an insurance company, much lesser, right? So I think that's where people have to realize that this is something they can actually control. Right? So if we can empower people, you have the ability to make those choices, that you can live healthier, I think it is in the best interest of everyone, right? For the state, for the country and so on. So for me, it was about prevention. It was about getting healthcare, this thing. And I think if you pursue a particular passion, ultimately the rest of the things come. Right?
Money will fall in place.
I don't think you start a business thinking you will you are doing it for the money's sake, because things change, environments change. For us, I think COVID came in between. People said, what do you do, right? We said, we are one of the few companies that have been doing molecular testing చాలా రోజుల నుంచి చేస్తున్నారు. RT-PCR మన ఆఫీస్లో have been there for
ఫస్ట్ మీరే కదా స్టార్ట్ చేసింది కోవిడ్ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినప్పుడు.
But ఇక్కడ we had the machines, right? We were doing RT-PCR from many years.
Wonderful.
So we had all the machines. When the government said we have to start doing testing, I said, we can do it. We can help. Then we also did a lot of, we donated a lot of kits to governments. We did our studies. So I felt that for me it was a calling, right? It was a calling saying that, can we help in this particular case? So if you do it for purely any business just for money, I think then
it won't sustain,
because you want to be able to, I think that is one. Second is businesses are of different kind. And I think some people are more attracted towards businesses that are new and interesting and challenging and intellectually stimulating than others who might find a business that is different. So I think I'm of the kind who likes that, right? It's in my DNA.
అయితే మీరు 25 ఏళ్ల క్రితం స్టార్ట్ చేశారు, అంటే 25 ఏళ్ళు 2000 స్టార్టెడ్. అప్పటి నుంచి ఇప్పటి వరకు ఐ వాంట్ టు నో రియల్ టైమ్ స్టాటిస్టిక్స్. అంటే హౌ బిగ్ ఈజ్ నౌ యువర్ ఎంపైర్, హౌ మెనీ ఎంప్లాయీస్ ఆర్ దేర్, అండ్ హౌ మెనీ పీపుల్ డైరెక్ట్లీ ఆర్ ఇండైరెక్ట్లీ డిపెండింగ్ ఆన్ మ్యాప్మైజీనోమ్. అంటే ఎలా ఉంటుంది ఇది, ఈ ఎంప్లాయ్మెంట్ గురించి చెప్పండి నాకు.
Employment, we don't need to have like any of these big IT giants. We don't need that many people. Right? So we are about 250 people now. We had gone up to 300 plus because during COVID, because we were at the airport.
అంటే దిస్ ఈజ్ అన్ని ప్లేసెస్ కలిపి, అన్ని బ్రాంచెస్.
So you don't need to have too many people. But ఇప్పుడు కొంచెం as the tests increase, there are few people we'll need to add more. Genetic counselors ఉన్నాయి, doctors. So ఇప్పుడు some people are part time. So we not necessarily in the this thing, but if we train them, then it becomes easy to be able to scale. But machines can do thousands of samples together. So it's not like we need to, for each person you need to add more this thing. So number of people won't be that many. But I think if we can get more doctors who are aware of this, if we can get more genetic counselors, that would be, then, you know, other people like fitness trainers, nutrition, because you are touching a
So
lot
మీ
of
ప్లాన్
this.
ఉంది, యూ వాంట్ టు ఎక్స్పాండ్ దట్ వే.
Yeah. See, and then you can expand, and there are many people, maybe pundits also. We talked about that.
Yes, yes.
Right. So I think it is also about empowering different parts of the ecosystem, if you will, the healthcare ecosystem, because ఇప్పుడు health lo it is not just one person, it's also your family members, right? You don't eat food that is only made for you normally, right? I mean, if in normal households, it's not like everybody has their separate food cooked. So I think health is a family business, really, because if you change habits at home, you will change it for everybody, right? And I think that's where, if consumers are empowered, well, if they know that kuncham information తీసుకుంటే, they are able to make those changes, I think you will see that there'll be many more people who will do that. So we have seen that families are doing the test, right?
Wonderful.
We have I think at least reached many lakhs of people who have been able to understand and be able to do this these kind of changes in their lives. So I'm hopeful that we can take it to many more. It's a technology that's only going to get better and cheaper over a period of time.
సో ఇన్నేళ్లలో మీరు చేసిన ఈ జీనోమ్ పత్రి టెస్ట్లు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, ఈ మొత్తం ఇంతవరకు ఒక్కసారి కూర్చొని ఆలోచిస్తే, వాట్ వాజ్ ద బెస్ట్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ అండ్ ద వర్స్ట్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఎవర్? అంటే ఒకళ్ళ జీనోమ్ పత్రి చూశాక, అబ్బా ఇది బ్రేక్ ఈవెన్, అసలు మాకు చాలా గొప్ప అద్భుతం జరిగింది అని అనిపించిన సంఘటన, అలాగే అయ్యో ఇలా జరిగింది ఏంటి అని అనిపించిన సంఘటన. కెన్ యూ రిమెంబర్?
Oh, we have a lot of case studies, but I think the ones that I remember the most are people that I know well. So I have a close friend. A close friend ki 2013 genome patri chesa. Suddenly 2018 ఒకసారి ఫోన్ చేసింది, saying, what you're doing is fantastic. నువ్వు ఏం చేస్తున్నా చాలా బాగుంది. I said, what happened? And she said, అందరికి చేయాలి. So I said, what happened? గ్లాకోమా రిస్క్ ఉంది. She said, ఇంట్లో ఎవరికి లేదు. Right? Then some other things are there. But let's take all the other things aside. Glaucoma risk undi. A genetic counselor ఏం చెప్పారు ki you should do the every year eye checkup cheyali. 2018 suddenly pressure high undi in the eye. This thing, the doctor advised, saying it's an early sign of glaucoma. She said, I would have never thought about this, but because your report said that, I even did that. So it was caught very, very early.
Wonderful.
So that is one example. Other example is my own mother. My father was diabetic from 40, age of 40. He used to take metformin regularly. Ammaki, I think she got it after she was 65 something. She came to Hyderabad. She was looking very down. So I said, Mayindi, what happened? She said, no, so I said, did you take anything new? She said, I took some new medicine. I've been diagnosed with diabetes. Show me the medicines. Showed me the medicine. I saw metformin. I immediately went and saw her report. I said, this is not going to work for you. And then we went to the doctor, showed the doctor. Doctor changed the medicine. Perfectly fine. So she is perfectly healthy now. It's all fine. So I think there are small changes that allow us.
That's fine, but was there any heartbreaking revelation? అంటే అయ్యో అని అనిపించినది ఏదన్నా మీరు?
No, nobody is like people. There was one, I think, first day when they read it, first time, it's a funny incident because afterwards she was fine, but she opened it, someone got a risk for lung cancer. She said, khas raha tha, right? He was, dag vastundi, must be lung cancer. I said, no, it doesn't work like that. Right? So it was more that I had to explain that is not the case. She didn't do genetic counseling. So I said, don't take the report, it's not a diagnosis. You have to take it with em cheyali. So I told her, then they went through counseling, it was fine. So I think it is more about that. Because you are not really telling
సో ముందు చూడగానే ఒక భయం వస్తుంది, బట్ కౌన్సిలింగ్
for some very few people, but most people are fine with that.
Okay.
So at least we have, I remember in some cases, one case where someone said, "Meer chapte, will it come?" So I said, no, our effort is to make sure you don't get it.
Don't get it.
So he said, but if I don't get it, then how do I know it's correct? So I said, well, you can see it in your family history. Do you have that? So we argued for a long time. Then I said, in your case, I think you shouldn't do it. Because if you...
అన్ని డౌట్లు ఉన్నప్పుడు
No, the doubt is not on the... See, I said I can explain the science to you. Right? I can explain how this thing comes about. But our purpose is not to say that you will die of something. Right?
Correct.
Our purpose is really to make sure that you make the changes so you live healthy.
Right. And the purpose is also not to prove a point.
Exactly.
It is just, this test is there, మీరు చేసుకుంటే తెలుస్తుంది అంతే.
ఇంకోసారి these all are very early, 2013-14 stories I'm telling you now. Someone got the test చేస్తే కౌన్సిలింగ్ చేశా. యూజువలీ కౌన్సిలింగ్ ఏం చేస్తా, we get the test report. Test report తర్వాత we take family history and information on what you eat and all, because we want to help you ఏం చేయాలి next.
Right.
So this guy said, you have just used my family history ఏం చేసా, that only you gave me as risk. So, so he basically was shouting at the genetic counselor, saying that you have copied what is there.
Yeah.
So then I said, I called him then. I said, I'm so glad that your family history is matching with the Genomepatri, because we don't use any other information other than the genes. So you get a risk score. Then we correlated with family history. So I said, if you want, we'll show you how we did that, right? And what markers you have. And in fact, it's there in your report as well. So I think once he understood that, he was even more, he started to understand that. So I think those are some challenges that we had in 2013-14. Ippudu we don't see that. Ippudu I think people are more aware, and our mental health problems vastunayi, nothing. In fact, studies kuda unnai. Studies lo kuda cheptunnaru ki there are no people who who will have a anxiety attack based on this thing. So there are, I think it is more, before you do that, you might have some doubts on whether you should do it or not. But I think people who do it are perfectly fine.
Finally, Anu, how gratifying is it? Because మీరు చూస్ చేసుకున్న పాత్ వేరు, మీరు ఎంచుకున్న విధానం వేరు, మీరు ఎంతో మందికి సహాయపడాలన్న ఒక పెయిన్ మోటివ్తో వచ్చారు. సో ఈరోజు ఇట్లా కూర్చుంటే ఒకసారి ఆలోచిస్తే ఎంత సంతృప్తిగా ఉంటుంది, ఎంత ప్రైడ్గా ఉంటుంది, ఎంత హాయిగా ఉంటుంది.
Health care is a gratifying field, right? Because you are giving someone the tools. You're not saving it, but you're basically giving people tools. So I think that in many ways my work in my life is the right thing we are doing, because we are able to change a little bit more. One of my favorite quotes is that we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? So what we have done today is not Mapmygenome itself, but it was also many other people who did it. I think what we are taking is a little torch to the next level and done a little bit more. And I think if we are able to make those changes, that we can use science to advance a little bit on our own discovery of our own selves and making those changes and being healthier, I think we would have done our job. So I think it's hugely satisfying for me that I have chosen a path, even though my studies were actually in physics. So I think the last 22 years, I think has been the most exciting thing, to be able to help decode the genome, to be able to help people understand and guide them towards a better path of self-discovery and better health. So I think I've done the right thing for my life. So
thank you so much, Anuradha. It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you.
And thanks a lot for being a part of the Chief Story.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. And what you're doing is a fascinating reel. I won't be able to do what you do.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Anu Acharya, and I will talk a lot about interesting things about genomics and your path to discovery of better health and better self, only on Prema the Journalist.
Anu, this is a small gift hamper from Millet Bank.
Thank you so much.